Welcome to Mimikatz Credential Manipulation. In this video, we're going to be taking a quick high-level look into Mimikatz, which is a tool commonly used to dump credentials from a system and also to impersonate users. We're actually going to use it to dump credentials for a specific user, spawn a token, grab that token, and then use it to compromise another host in the domain. Now, one big caveat with using Mimikatz, 99% of the different functions and different types of things it can do require administrative or even system privileges to work successfully. So if you're running as a low privileged basic user, you're probably not going to be using Mimikatz very often. This first command here, we're actually going to skip for now. I want to come back to this one once we get some password hashes, because then we can actually use it to create a specific token for a user on the machine. So let's move on to this one, which is going to dump out various hashes in the SAM database. You will get a little bit different data back depending on what version of Windows you're running this against. I'm going to go ahead and run this against our Windows server here, and we'll see what comes back. First things first, let's get a shell going. We'll copy paste this one in. I actually already uploaded Mimikatz to the C drive. Mimi.exe right here. We're going to go through the whole process of uploading Mimikatz to the host, dumping credentials, grabbing a token in our scenario video, so definitely check that out if you want to jump ahead. But we're going to go ahead and run it right here. So we're going to do LSA dump SAM exit. Basically, this says, hey Mimikatz, go ahead, run this function and then exit. Don't drop me in an intermediary prompt here. And kind of like expected here, we have all of our output. Now this command used to dump out all the hashes for a system. However, nowadays, you only get a couple specific accounts. That's okay. There's another tool called DC Sync we're going to use, which will allow us to dump specific user accounts. So let's keep going on down here. Past the hash again, we're going to come back to this one. A lot of times using Mimikatz, maybe if you're doing a golden ticket attack, you're going to need the domain SID. We do have a couple quick shorthand notations here to grab a domain SID. So let's go ahead, let's run this one right here, this wmic command. Let me copy paste it in. We'll take a second to come back. And sure enough, we have the full group SID here. And then if you look down here, it says the domain SID portion is kind of these first few chunks. So if we look here, this is the domain SID in this example. Another short way you can do it, if you do a reg query HKU, this will actually list out user hives. Typically, there are some domain users included in this. And what do you know? Their actual SID here as well. So you can just grab that beginning portion and that's your domain SID. I've mentioned DC Sync. Let's copy this one to our pasteable pad here and we'll get started. We do need to make a couple changes here. We need to change out the domain. This has to be the fully qualified domain name. So I'm going to do chicago.cyberinc.local. Then we have the user flag right here. This is going to be used to specify what user credentials we want. Now, in our actual example, I want to be able to enumerate and compromise a target workstation. So we need to find a workstation admin to target. So let's come over here. Let's run a quick command, netgroup workstation admins whack domain. I remember when we were running a lot of our DS query commands, there was a workstation admins group already created. Sure enough, we have 3 users here, one of which is kind of surprising, Phyllis Snyder. That is the very first user we got on their machine. She had a bunch of administrative type documents on her desktop, so that kind of should have cued us off that she also had a workstation admin account. So let's go ahead. We'll try to grab Brian Sanchez though. I want to show you how we can grab his credential. So let's grab that. We'll put his name in here. And then the last modification is actually setting our file name, so which was mimi.exe. And then we can't forget our exit at the end. Let's paste this in here. So we got all of their hashes, historical hashes, really, really useful stuff here. The main hash you want to look at if you're in an NTLM-based environment is hash NTLM right here. This is the one we're going to need to actually masquerade and impersonate as Brian Sanchez. So let's copy this to our notepad, and then we can prep and get ready our pass the hash. Scroll back up. Let's grab our pass the hash command, and we'll start to prep it. The main workflow here is obtain the user hash, which we just did with our DC Sync. The second thing we want to do is actually spawn a process as that specific user. And then the third thing we want to do is actually steal the token from that process. But that's where things are going to get a little bit weird since we're using Sliver. I've used a lot of Cobalt Strike. I've used a lot of Mythic. those tools have a steal token function. So it's very easy to steal a token from that process and then use that token to access the various machines in the environment. It's very, very easy to do that. However, Sliver does not have a steal token function, so we actually have to inject ourselves into the process we spawn. So that's basically what we're going to do. Create the process as that user, inject into it, and then take over the world. So to prep this command, we're going to actually grab the username. We got to paste it in right here. We're going to grab his hash. We're going to paste it in here. And then the domain, you guessed it, Chicago. The last thing we need to do is specify the binary that we want to run with Brian's credential. So we're going to fill that in with C Windows System32 upnpcont.exe. We have our exit at the end, and then we just need to make that final edit at the beginning to reference our target executable. So let's paste this in. So we spawned our credential. It even gives us the exact process we need to use to interact with this credential. Now I'm going to go ahead and back to the Sliver main menu. Let's make sure to grab this process identifier. This is the process that was started with Brian's credential. Wait for it to come back. And now, like I mentioned, we need to inject into that target process identifier. That will give our Sliver implant the privileges of that process, which we created with Mimikatz. So the injection plugin with Sliver is called migrate. We can do help, migrate, and then we have some pretty simple, straightforward syntax here. Let's do migrate, tac p, paste in our PID, and then it's as easy as that. It's migrating into that process right now. Sure enough, it says new session created on that specific PID. Now we can go ahead, do a background. We can interact with this session. And now we can actually test our credentials. So let me open up a shell here. We'll open up our CMD. Excellent. We'll do task list, make sure we're good. Now we can try to dir that target workstation. Go ahead, give it a try here. And it worked perfectly. You're gonna see me run through this exact same workflow in all of our scenario videos as we grow up to the parent cyber domain and into all the other domains we have set up in this environment. Well, I hope you enjoyed this quick primer into Mimikatz. If you're into pen testing or red team operations, I'm sure you've already been using it. It's a great tool, very popular. In our next video, we're gonna continue fortifying our access in Chicago. We're gonna get some more workstation callbacks. So any type of defenders couldn't kick us out of the network. We're gonna have more persistent accesses. Should be a good time. Hopefully we see you there.